Shanice Williams stood frozen in the bathroom doorway, phone flashlight shaking in her hand. She'd only been working for Christopher Lang for 3 days. 3 days. And now she was staring into 8-year-old Benjamin's ear at something that shouldn't be there. Her heart pounded. Every specialist in 5 states had told Christopher the same thing. Benjamin's hearing was destroyed by a childhood infection 3 years ago. Permanent nerve damage. Irreversible. Accept it and move on. Christopher had spent millions trying to prove them wrong. Flew to Germany. Tried experimental treatments in Boston. Consulted with the best audiologists money could buy. They were all wrong. Shanice wasn't a doctor. Wasn't a nurse. She was a 26-year-old housekeeper 2 months behind on rent with an eviction notice taped to her apartment door. She'd dropped out of community college when the money ran out. Worked 3 part-time jobs that barely kept her lights on. When her last employer shut down without warning, she'd applied for this live-in position within 5 minutes of seeing the ad. Room and board included. It was the only thing standing between her and the street. Now she was holding a discovery that would change everything. But she had no proof. No credentials. No reason for Christopher Lang, a software millionaire, to believe her over 12 specialists who'd examined his son. Benjamin sat on the bed wrapped in a towel, one small hand pressed against his right ear. He'd jerked away violently when bath water ran toward it. The pain on his face had been real. Unmistakable. That's when Shanice looked closer and saw it. She'd noticed things over the past 3 days. The way Benjamin tilted his head sometimes. How he touched his ear constantly, quick uncomfortable touches. The winces that came from nowhere. Everyone else had stopped noticing. Stopped looking. They'd accepted the diagnosis and moved on. But Shanice had a little cousin back in Newark who used to do the same thing. Kept touching his ear, crying at bath time. Turned out he had a severe earache. Simple. Treatable. It made her wonder. Now she knew. Christopher was downstairs in his office on a business call. The last 3 housekeepers had quit within a month. They couldn't handle Benjamin's tantrums, his silence, his needs they couldn't understand. Shanice needed this job desperately. If she went downstairs and interrupted Christopher's call, if she was wrong about what she saw, she'd be fired on the spot. But if she was right, and she said nothing, Benjamin would live in silence for the rest of his life. All because a bead got pushed too deep 3 years ago and every doctor was too busy looking at brain scans to check his ear with a flashlight. Shanice looked at Benjamin. He was watching her with tired, resigned eyes. Eyes that had learned not to hope for anything. She made her decision. She grabbed Benjamin's hand and headed for the stairs. Her job didn't matter. The rent didn't matter. This child's life mattered more. She knocked hard on Christopher's office door, heart racing, and said the words that would change everything. There's something in your son's ear. Before we continue this story, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more stories like this, thank you. For 3 years, the boy lived in complete silence. 12 specialists across 5 states said the same thing. Permanent hearing loss from a childhood infection. His father spent a fortune trying to reverse it. Then the new maid noticed something strange during bath time, and what she pulled out changed everything. Christopher Lang owned a software company worth $200 million. Offices in San Francisco, Seattle, Austin. A penthouse in Manhattan overlooking the Hudson River. But his 8-year-old son Benjamin couldn't hear him say "I love you." Couldn't hear his own name being called. Couldn't hear anything at all. It started when Benjamin was 5. A severe ear infection that wouldn't go away. Antibiotics didn't work. The fever climbed to 104. Christopher rushed him to the hospital. 3 days later, Benjamin woke up and the world was silent. The doctors said the infection destroyed his hearing. Irreversible damage. Learn sign language and accept it. Christopher couldn't accept it. He took Benjamin to Johns Hopkins, Cleveland Clinic, a specialist in Munich who claimed he could restore hearing with experimental stem cell therapy. Nothing worked. Every doctor confirmed the same diagnosis. The infection caused permanent nerve damage. There was no cure. Christopher's parents told him to put Benjamin in a special school. His business partners said he needed to focus on the company instead of chasing miracles. His ex-wife, Benjamin's mother, had already moved to London with her new husband. She sent birthday cards twice a year and nothing else. Christopher was alone with a son who lived in silence, and he was running out of hope. Then Shanice Williams answered his help-wanted ad. She needed the job desperately. 26 years old, community college dropout, working 3 part-time jobs to keep her lights on. Her last employer closed down without warning. She was 2 months behind on rent. The eviction notice was taped to her door. When she saw the ad for a live-in housekeeper with room and board included, she applied within 5 minutes. Christopher hired her over the phone. He was desperate too. The last 3 housekeepers quit within a month. Taking care of a deaf child who couldn't communicate was harder than any of them expected. Benjamin had tantrums they couldn't predict. Needs they couldn't understand. They all left frustrated and exhausted. Shanice moved in on a Tuesday. Christopher showed her to her room, gave her a quick tour, and handed her a schedule. Benjamin gets up at 7. Breakfast at 7:30. I leave for work at 8. You'll handle meals, laundry, and keeping him occupied until I get home at 6. He's deaf, so communication is difficult. I'm still learning sign language myself. Just do your best. Shanice nodded. She didn't mention that she had no experience with deaf children. She needed this job too badly to admit any weaknesses. The first day was hard. Benjamin didn't respond to her at all. He sat in the corner of the playroom organizing toy cars by color. When she brought him lunch, he ignored her until she tapped his shoulder. He ate without looking at her. When she tried to smile, he turned away. That night, Christopher came home looking exhausted. How was he? Shanice chose her words carefully. Quiet. Keeps to himself mostly. Christopher nodded. That's normal. He's been like that since he lost his hearing. Doesn't trust people anymore. Shanice wanted to ask more questions, but Christopher disappeared into his office and closed the door. The second day was the same. Benjamin ignored her. Played alone. Ate in silence. But Shanice started noticing things. The way Benjamin tilted his head sometimes like he was trying to hear something. The way he touched his right ear constantly. Quick touches like it bothered him. And twice during the day, she saw him wince suddenly for no reason she could see. On the third day, it was bath time. Christopher had left instructions. Benjamin takes a bath every night at 6:30. He doesn't like getting his hair washed. Just do the best you can. Shanice filled the tub and called Benjamin. He didn't come. She found him in the playroom and tapped his shoulder. He looked up annoyed. She pointed to the bathroom and made washing motions. He shook his head no. Shanice knelt down to his level. I know you don't want to. But you have to. Your dad said so. Benjamin couldn't hear her words, but he could see she wasn't backing down. He stood up slowly and walked to the bathroom like he was heading to his execution. Shanice helped him into the tub. He sat rigid, arms crossed. She started washing his arms gently. He tolerated it. But when she reached for his hair, he pulled away fast. It's okay, she said softly even though he couldn't hear. I'll be gentle. She wet his hair carefully and started working in shampoo. Benjamin's whole body was tense. And then she saw it. When the water ran down the side of his head toward his right ear, he jerked violently and grabbed his ear with both hands. His face twisted in pain. Shanice's heart jumped. "Baby, what's wrong?" Benjamin was holding his ear, eyes squeezed shut. Shanice gently pulled his hands away. "Let me see. Let me look." Benjamin resisted, but she was persistent. She tilted his head toward the light and looked into his ear. At first she couldn't see anything. Just shadow. But then she leaned closer. There was something there. Deep inside. Something dark and solid. Shanice's stomach dropped. She grabbed a towel and wrapped Benjamin in it. Then she carried him out of the bathroom, grabbed her phone, and turned on the flashlight. She sat Benjamin on the bed and looked again. This time she could see it clearly. Something lodged deep in his ear canal. It looked dark green and hard. Her mind raced. How long had that been there? Was that why he couldn't hear? She didn't waste time. She grabbed Benjamin's hand and pulled him downstairs to Christopher's office. She knocked hard. The door opened. Christopher looked annoyed. "I'm on a call. This can't wait." Shanice pulled Benjamin forward. "There's something in his ear." Christopher's expression changed. "What are you talking about? Come look. Now." Christopher followed her back upstairs. Shanice sat Benjamin on the bed again and shone the phone light into his ear. Christopher leaned in. His face went pale. "What is that?" "I don't know. But it's blocking everything. It's been there a while. How did I not see this?" Christopher's voice was shaking. How did 12 doctors not see this? Shanice didn't have an answer. Christopher grabbed his phone and called his pediatrician. "Emergency. I need you to look at my son's ear right now. I'll pay whatever you want. Just meet me at your office in 20 minutes. He hung up and scooped Benjamin into his arms. "Let's go." Shanice followed them to the car. 20 minutes later they were in Dr. Morrison's office. The doctor examined Benjamin's ear with an otoscope. His expression shifted from curiosity to shock. "Mr. Lang, there's a foreign object lodged in your son's ear canal. It looks like a small bead. It's been there long enough to cause significant wax buildup around it. That's what's blocking his hearing." Christopher's voice was barely a whisper. "A bead?" Dr. Morrison nodded. "Children put things in their ears all the time. Usually parents catch it right away. But if it gets pushed deep enough, it can go unnoticed for years. Especially if there's an infection that masks the symptoms." Christopher sat down hard. "So the infection didn't destroy his hearing. It just made us stop looking." Dr. Morrison's face was grim. "I'm going to remove it now. It's going to be uncomfortable for Benjamin, but it shouldn't take long." Christopher held his son's hand while Dr. Morrison worked. Benjamin squirmed and whimpered, but he stayed still. After 5 minutes, Dr. Morrison pulled back holding tweezers. In the grip was a small green bead covered in dark wax. "Got it." Dr. Morrison dropped it into a metal tray. "There's some inflammation and fluid buildup, but the eardrum looks intact. I'll prescribe drops for the infection. His hearing should return gradually over the next few days as the swelling goes down." Christopher stared at the bead. 3 years. 3 years of silence because of this. Dr. Morrison's voice was gentle. "I know this is hard to process. But your son is going to be fine." They drove home in silence. Benjamin had fallen asleep in the back seat. Shanice sat in the passenger seat watching Christopher's hands shake on the steering wheel. When they got home, Christopher carried Benjamin to bed. Then he went to his office and closed the door. Shanice stood in the hallway not knowing what to do. She heard something break inside the office. Then another crash. She knocked softly. "Mr. Lang? Go away." "Sir, please." "I said go away." Shanice opened the door anyway. Christopher was on the floor surrounded by broken glass from a picture frame. His head was in his hands. 3 years, he said. I watched my son live in silence for 3 years. I spent millions on specialists. I took him to 12 different doctors. And not one of them looked in his ear with a flashlight. Shanice sat down on the floor across from him. They missed it because they were looking for something complicated. Sometimes the answer is simple. Christopher looked up. His eyes were red. You found it in 1 day. I've had him for 8 years and I never saw it. Because you were too close, Shanice said quietly. Sometimes it takes fresh eyes. Christopher wiped his face. What if his hearing doesn't come back? What if the damage is already done? Then we deal with that. But Dr. Morrison said he's going to be fine. So right now, we wait and we hope. Christopher nodded slowly. Thank you. For paying attention. For not giving up. Shanice smiled. That's what I'm here for. 2 days later, Benjamin woke up different. Shanice was making breakfast when she heard a gasp from upstairs. She ran up to find Benjamin standing in the middle of his room, spinning in circles, eyes wide. She knelt down. What's wrong, baby? Benjamin pointed at the window. The birds. I hear the birds. Shanice's eyes filled with tears. You can hear? Benjamin nodded fast. Everything is so loud. It's loud because you haven't heard it in 3 years, baby. Your ears are waking up. Benjamin ran to the stairs. Dad. Dad. His voice was rough and unused but real. Christopher came running from his office. What's wrong? I can hear you. Benjamin jumped up and down. I can hear your voice. Christopher froze. Then he dropped to his knees and pulled his son into his arms. He was crying. Benjamin was crying. Shanice stood at the top of the stairs watching, tears running down her face. Over the next week, Benjamin's world exploded with sound. He heard the refrigerator hum. The clock tick. The doorbell ring. He made Christopher say his name over and over just to hear it. He listened to music for hours, pressing his ear against the speaker. He laughed at his own voice. Everything was new. Everything was beautiful. Christopher took a month off work. He and Benjamin spent every day together. They went to the park and Benjamin heard other children playing. They went to the movies and Benjamin heard explosions and music. They went to the beach and Benjamin heard waves crashing. Christopher watched his son come alive and realized how much he'd missed. How much they'd both lost. One evening, Christopher called Shanice into his office. She thought she was being fired. Instead, he handed her an envelope. Inside was a check for $20,000. Mr. Lang, I can't take this. You can and you will. You gave me my son back. Shanice's hands were shaking. I just noticed something. You did what 12 specialists couldn't do. You paid attention when everyone else stopped looking. Shanice wiped her eyes. I'm just glad he's okay. Christopher's voice was firm. You're staying on permanently. Double your salary. And I'm paying off your back rent and whatever other debts you have. You're family now. Shanice couldn't speak. She just nodded. 6 months later, Benjamin started 3rd grade at a regular school. His hearing was perfect. His speech was catching up fast. He made friends easily. And every afternoon when Shanice picked him up, he'd talk the entire drive home about everything he learned. Christopher cut his work hours in half. Had dinner with Benjamin every night. helped with homework, read bedtime stories. They were a family. One night, Benjamin asked Shanice a question. "Miss Shanice, what made you look in my ear?" Shanice thought about it. "You kept touching it. Like it hurt. And I remembered my little cousin used to do the same thing when he had an earache. So I just wanted to check." Benjamin hugged her. "I'm glad you checked." "Me too, baby. Me too." Christopher stood in the doorway watching them. He thought about all the money he'd spent. All the specialists he'd flown across the world. All the experimental treatments. And in the end, the answer came from a woman with a flashlight and a willingness to look. Sometimes that's all a miracle needs. Someone who pays attention. Someone who cares enough to check. Someone who doesn't give up just because everyone else already has. Shanice Williams was that person. And because she noticed a little boy touching his ear, because she took 5 minutes to look closer, a child's world went from silence to sound. A father got his son back. And a family was built on the foundation of one simple truth. Love means paying attention. It means seeing what others miss. It means caring enough to look deeper even when everyone else says there's nothing left to find. 3 years of silence ended because someone noticed. And sometimes, that's all it takes. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you are watching from.